Hey, what's up guys, I'm Josh. Today we're going to be talking about the HD8XX, the long-awaited 8XX. And this is actually what they are calling their most requested product ever, and I kind of believe it. And today we're going to talk about it. First, some disclosures. I only know what's on the website here. I have no insider information whatsoever on this product. I have the information that's on the website the day of the launch. I don't know anything that's going to come out in the future, and I'm sure there will be some things that come out about this headphone later on. So if you're watching while this video is new, you're probably up to date. If you're watching longer in the future, you may not be up to date. You might want to check Drop's website. I'll leave a link down below. Okay, so some brief history here. A couple days ago, Sennheiser released this photo. Right away, people started photoshopping it and brightening the image, adding contrast. Pretty quickly, people came up with some pretty promising conclusions that this thing was going to be an 800. They said coming soon in 2 days. Then yesterday, the day before the launch, they came out with a post underneath that photo saying it's an HD8XX or an HD800. For Drop. Now here's everything that we know so far. That post was actually a little bit more detailed than the actual product page was. So first, here's what it looks like. Okay, so a couple questions. Is this an HD800 or an HD800S? And it's kind of neither. It's more similar, it seems, to the 800S, but I'm not exactly sure how close it will be to that headphone. And here's a few things that they talked about. They said they have two mandates for their version of the 800. Better bass extension down to 10 Hertz and more balanced mid-range, smoothing out between 2.5K and 8K. I think 800 owners can say that that sounds like a promising thing. They talk about how there's a dual resonator system compared to the single resonator system that is in the HD800S. Now, when the original HD800 came out, shortly after that, people came out with something called an SDR, or a Super DuPont resonator mod. Now, what that mod was a little tiny ring that you would put inside your HD800's driver, and it would eliminate some of the resonance that had in the upper frequencies. Now, Sennheiser came out with their own version of that resonator, and that was the HD800S. Now, people at the time got a lot of flack because it really wasn't that much more in price. Like, it was probably a couple bucks in materials, but they were charging $600 more for the 800S than they were the 800. Now, this one is coming out with a dual resonator system. Now, what's interesting about the dual resonator system is that I'm not sure, and they don't specify, where these are applied and how they're applied and what frequencies they adjust. Because the whole point of the resonator system was to actually get rid of a ringing at, I believe, about 7.5K, if I'm remembering correctly. It was anywhere between 5 and 8. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was 7.5. Now, some people are reading between the lines here and saying, well, if there's a resonator mod, that means they're not going to have ringing issues. Same thing with the 800S, which didn't wholeheartedly resolve the issue, but it did a great job to kind of nix it in the butt a little bit. So my basic point here is that this could be good, but it depends on where and how it's applied and the quality of its application. Now, I think for me personally, Sennheiser has a lot of credit. They're very good at making headphones, in my opinion. And Sennheiser for me has a couple key players that maybe not are the best overall at their price ranges, but they have the best of a specific feature. Like the 6XX has the best mid-range, the 800S has the best soundstage, hands down. Now, also on their actual product page, they say this. They say, Sennheiser responded with the retuned HD800S, and using that as a base, we worked with Sennheiser to further balance the mid-range and extend the bass response. Now, to me, if I'm reading between the lines, that means that they didn't really do a whole lot to the treble. They more kind of affected the mid-range and the bass response, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if you boost those regions, you don't have to push the headphone as high. Now, that is just a theory, but that could be one side effect of boosting the bass response and the mid-range, is that you don't have to push the whole headphone as high in volume. Okay, so all of this sounds awesome. The 800's chassis is a very good chassis, and it's a very good chassis for a couple reasons. I actually think the build is very unique. It doesn't really look or feel or act like anything else in the market right now, so plus there. But also it's got a very noteworthy feature, which is that the driver is very far away from your ear. That whole chassis is kind of designed to place the driver like quite a far away from your ear compared to a typical headphone. Now, this matched with the tuning allows for a diffuse feel headphone, which is what the 800S is. But the point is that the chassis actually offers a big reason as to why this headphone sounds the way it does, especially in terms of staging and scale. Now, obviously, as you can see with the pictures, they didn't really change anything about the chassis besides the paint. So I'm curious how this will work with the new sounding driver and how different that new sounding driver will sound. Now, this is one of those things where if Sennheiser can nail this, this headphone is going to be like God tier for the price, but it's if they can nail it. And I do have some questions that I still don't have answers to that could change, I think, the outcome of how people receive this. One is the housing plastic and the build quality the same as the actual 800S? I know it looks the same, but I'm curious if it actually is the same. Two, with a unique driver and better smoothing between 2.5 and 8K, how much resolution are we giving up? Are we giving up a substantial amount for some extra smoothing? Is that worth it at the price range? I think one of the main reasons to buy the 800S is resolution for the price. It's very good. Sometimes when you start adding things to modify a headphone to sound a specific way, you have trade-offs. So I'm curious what the trade-offs are in terms of resolution. Now, there's also a question for legacy owners of the 800S and the 800. One, are the corrections appealing to 800S owners? I think they are. I think that there's a lot of benefits to the headphone, and if they can keep the benefits but add other benefits, this will be kind of an obvious thing where like, yeah, you should probably sell your 800S and pick this up as long as you like the additional bass response and maybe the smoother mid-range, right? But I think that is going to be a tough sell. Now, do I think that this provides an interesting midway step for 800 owners? Instead of getting an 800S, they could get the 8XX. And this might be a more appealing option to legacy OG 800 owners. Okay, now my thoughts on this, like my just unbridled kind of opinions on this headphone as of right now, what I know about it. One, it's more expensive than I thought it was going to be. I was really hoping for like Sennheiser is turning into Todd Howard, where it's like finding 1,000 different ways to resell the same game. And Sennheiser is finding a bunch of different ways to resell very similar versions of the same headphone, including the 600 series, including the 800 series. I was really hoping that this was going to be under $1,000. And while these changes honestly do sound appealing, I was kind of hoping for an original 800 at like the $600 or $700, maybe even the $800 price point with maybe a couple changes. That way people could get it and modify it to be amazing for under $1,000. But this is coming in at $1,200, which is pretty expensive. It is noteworthy that if you're part of the pre-order group, I think there's 3,000 headphones that they're selling total. You can get this for $1,100 rather than the $1,200 MSRP, and you also get a $200 drop credit, essentially bringing this down to a $900 headphone, but with the extra $200 having to be spent on drop. So I do think as an early bird special, that's pretty appealing. The other thing is that I know drop has this midnight blue color that they use a lot. Now, if this whole headphone was that color, I don't know if it would look great, but I think I would prefer it over the three-tone thing that they have going on with the silver, the black, and now the midnight thing. Now, the thing to remember is that this is still an extremely expensive headphone. And this colorway just, it doesn't scream premium to me. Just personally, I just don't love the looks of it. I really wish they would have gone with just a standard two-tone with the midnight and the silver if they had to. And I think it would have even been way more sick if they had done, instead of the silver, done matte black everything. That would have been awesome. But that probably would have changed the characteristics of that little mesh that they use there. Okay, so my actual advice on whether you should purchase this. If you're at all skeptical of the changes that I've made, or you just don't like the 800S sound signature, I probably would wait. I'd wait till reviews come out, see if it's something that you'd be interested in and if the changes are big enough. I'd say on the flip side, if one, you already like the way the 800S sounds and maybe you're even considering purchasing the 800S, or if you are just confident with the changes that they are going to make to it, then I would probably recommend purchasing it, especially with the pre-order bonuses. So some closing thoughts. One, the delivery time for this is November 2021. So it's ways off. I'm not sure why it's that long. I know that they're selling 3,000 units total, and this released at 9 a.m. and now it's about 9:46, and they've sold about 222 units. So they've sold almost a tenth of what they're going to initially make. So if you are going to jump on it, I would probably jump on it quick. But if you're not feeling it, I'd probably wait. Okay, guys, I think that's going to be it. Until the next video, my name is Josh, signing off.